Blood glucose, as simple as it seems, is something that you are going to have to be monitoring as a nurse, okay? So in our nursing profession, we could be held negligent or be sued for malpractice if we do not intervene on a patient's behalf, right? Whenever something happens. In particular, in this situation, we're talking about lab results. And one of the things I see that nurses don't document very well is blood glucose. Before we talk about that, we know that insulin is one of the number one high-risk medications, right? That's going to be given erroneously, right? Whether the dose is going to be wrong because it's too much units that were given or too little units. Insulin is going to be one of the medications that you have to be very specific about and make sure you're documenting and administering appropriately. To that point, if your patient receives insulin, you know that you're going to have to check their blood glucose according to the standards and policy and procedure of the place that you work. But even when you do that, it's important for you to understand that you need to also be aware of what your patient's last blood glucose results are. So when you're working, you may not be the one taking the blood glucose. It may be the nursing assistant who's doing that, and they may not tell you what the blood glucose is. There's so many times that, the nursing assistant may have got caught up and put the information in Epic, but didn't report to me of the dyscrasia, right, or the issue with the blood glucose, whether it was too high or too low. They may just say, well, I put it in Epic and the nurse was notified, right? So that's their way of notifying us, but it's our responsibility to go in the chart and look to see what the blood glucose results are, because if we do not intervene, there can be drastic ramifications to us, whether that is being written up by our manager or actually, causing harm to the patient. So you want to make sure that you are aware of what your patient's last blood glucose is and also what they've been trending throughout the day, right? So if you have a patient who goes hypoglycemic all the time or has a baseline of hypoglycemia, they may be 67, 64. You want to make sure that you are documenting specifically for that lab result and also the interventions that you recommend, whether you notify the physician of that and also recommend for them to perhaps put the patient on D5W or something that is showing you that you are intervening and trying to mitigate any kind of harm that can happen to the patient, right? So other recommendations may be to ensure that the patient has D50 as an active order, right? So you don't have to call the physician when the blood glucose drops below 70 to intervene. You also want to make sure in your documentation that you're showing the interventions that you're doing as a nurse, whether that is making sure that the tray is there within the time frame that the insulin was given, so the tray is actively in front of the patient, or you want to document that you've given the patient orange juice or a snack or milk or something that can help sustain their blood glucose, right? So we know if the person is hypoglycemic, you're going to give 4 ounces of soda, which is a test question, but it actually works in real life. So you're going to give them 4 ounces of soda. We already know about a cup of orange juice, but also you can give them milk, 8 ounces of milk. That's going to give them a sustained glycemic level with the protein in the milk. So these are the things that you need to make sure that you are monitoring as the nurse, because some nurses still like to document, will continue to monitor. But if you don't know what your patient's blood glucose is, if you don't know what the CNA wrote in there, and you haven't shown that you're intervening, you're putting yourself at risk, and you're putting your license at risk, and you're putting the patient at risk. So I educate you to find a resource tool, find a mentor, and learn how to document to save your license, protect your patients, and also protect your income.